Hi, I'm Angie Hicks, co-founder of Angie. When you use Angie for your home projects, you know all your jobs will be done well. Roof repair? Done well. Kitchen sink install? Done well. Deck upgrades? Done well. Electrical upgrade? Done well. Angie's been connecting homeowners with skilled pros for nearly 30 years, so we know the difference between done and done well. Hire high-quality, certified pros at Angie.com.
Angie has made it easier than ever to hire high-quality pros to get all your home service jobs done well. Whether it's routine maintenance, an emergency repair, or a dream project, Angie lets you compare quotes from multiple local pros, browse homeowner reviews, and even book a service instantly. Angie's been connecting people with skilled pros for nearly 30 years. So the next time you have a home project, bring it to Angie to get your job done well. Download the free Angie mobile app today or visit Angie.com. That's ANGI.com.
It came out of him that he didn't want the relationship anymore. I agreed to it. And then at some point he thought he wanted the relationship back, and I said no chance because of the things that had happened after the breakup.
This is the plaintiff, Lillian Schaefer. She says the defendant's her ex-boyfriend, who she lived with until they broke up. Now the louse won't pay her the money he owes her. She had to call the cops on him because he stalked her and made death threats against her. Bottom line, she's happy to be rid of him and is suing for the $1,700 he still owes her. This is the defendant, Anthony Bonanno. He says the plaintiff moved out of the apartment they shared and didn't pay her last 2 months of rent, so he's keeping the security deposit. They agreed to handle things like this with a verbal agreement, but the plaintiff is now trying to go back on their agreement because she's a greedy little thing. Oh, her? No way. He's accused of dissing a girlfriend. The defendant has filed a countersuit for $5,100 for back rent.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
What you are about to witness is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual litigants with a case pending in civil court. Both parties have agreed to drop their claims and have their cases settled here before Judge Marilyn Milian in our forum, the People's Court.
The People's Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Marilyn Milian presiding. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
All right, Ms. Schaefer, you are suing your ex-boyfriend, Mr. Bonanno, for $1,700 of a security deposit that, according to you, you paid entirely and should be returned to you because the lease is over. He's counterclaiming against you rent for 6 months because you bailed. So talk to me, tell me what's going on.
So we got an apartment together while we were dating.
How long ago was that?
How long ago?
How long did you live together?
Probably about 5 or 6 months.
And most of that, you were broken up?
No, we were dating during that time that we got our apartment, for the 5 or 6 months that we lived together in our apartment.
Okay, when did you guys break up?
January.
And when did you move out of the apartment?
April.
Okay, so that right there is already 4 months. So how long were you living together and dating?
We dated for almost a year, and we lived together since I had moved to Massachusetts in April of last year. So we were living together for almost a full year and dating for almost a full year.
All right. And so now you guys break up, and why do you break up?
There was just unresolved issues that led up to him thinking that he didn't want the relationship anymore. Things
Such as?
Honestly, it's a bunch of mixed things, because when I had tried addressing the issues earlier on in the relationship, they just kept getting pushed off by him. So at some point, I just said it is what it is. If at some point he wants to end the relationship, then that's fine with me. We both mutually agreed that if it ended, then it would end. Come January, things had just mounted up, and it came out of him that he didn't want the relationship anymore. I agreed to it. And then at some point he thought he wanted the relationship back, and I said no chance because of the things that had happened after the breakup.
So explain something to me. You guys are broken up in January, but you stayed living there till May. So who's sleeping where?
So I moved out at the end of April. My new lease started April 31st. I moved out that same day.
There's no April 31st. It's
April. I'm sorry. Just
May
whatever,
1st?
No.
Last day of April is
yes,
the 30th.
Last day of April. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
So the very last day of April was when my new lease started. I got the keys to that place that day, so I moved out that night.
I know, so you were living there for 3 months or something, broken
Yep.
up. So how did that work out? Like, who was sleeping where?
So I think I started out in the living room, or we had like swapped because we both worked some days the same hours. Some days I would come home later or he would come home later. So it was just kind of whoever slept.
But wasn't it awkward?
Yes, that's why I had initially wanted to move out right when we broke up, because I said, I don't think this is going to work out. I thought I initially was going to move back to Michigan. I made plans for that.
Because you moved from Michigan to where?
Massachusetts.
How did you two meet?
Omegle.
And what?
Omegle. It's like a social website.
Wow, I never even heard of that one.
It's just like a social site. You get on there, you just meet people randomly. Like, it randomizes things. You don't have any way of
Oh, you don't
controlling it.
pick?
No. So I just got bored one night. I just went on there, and then it was in December, so he was building a gingerbread house. He was just streaming it, and then we just chatted shortly then, and then exchanged contact information because we just got along.
All right, so in any event, you guys hit it off. You end up moving
Yep.
after dating him for how long distance? Had you met him?
So he initially,
Is that a yes? Had you met him?
Oh, yes.
Before
I'm
you
sorry.
decide to move to
Yes,
Massachusetts,
we
had you met
I
him?
think, what was it, once or twice?
Once or twice. Oh, she's asking him for the answer. You move in together in what month of what year?
April of last year.
She moved in with me and my family.
You and your
April
family?
of 2021. I was living with my family at the time, and shortly after that, we were looking for a place for ourselves.
All right, and you moved into an apartment together when?
August, the first week of August. I think we got the keys like July 31st.
August of 2021.
Correct.
And you guys break up January of
New Year's
2022.
New Year's Day.
New Year's Day. Why did you guys break up?
I don't want to say it's like one particular reason. It was a few things. Partly was myself. I basically went from single, doing whatever I want, to a dog, basically a girlfriend that lives with me, and I was just
those are really big moves. How old are you?
I'm 26.
How old are you?
25.
Okay. Who's the lady with you?
This is my sister.
Okay.
So I was having concerns just in general for myself, our relationship in general.
She thinks you cheated on her, right?
Yes.
And that's what the argument was about on New Year's. And the police were called out.
Yes, that was another
And did anybody
thing.
get arrested?
I did.
And you got arrested because you told the police that she was accurately describing that you put your hands around her throat.
So that's what she had told them.
And you told them that you did.
I didn't tell them anything.
Oh, the police say you told them.
No.
But you know that's what the police report says.
I know what the police report says. I
And
read
it
I was
says
also
what I'm
acquitted
saying,
of
though,
that.
right?
Correct.
Right, and you're saying, but however,
I'm
the
saying
police
I didn't
are lying.
say anything to the police that night. I told them that she is locking me out of our shared apartment and she won't let me in. But that was also acquitted May.
Acquitted? What happened? You got arrested and you went to trial?
Maybe I'm using the wrong term.
You probably are. Did she drop the charges?
She didn't show up.
Yeah.
So
because she knows what's going to happen if she doesn't show up, which is that the charges got dropped. What month did that happen in?
May, the first week of May, I think it was. I think it was like May 5th.
And when did she move out?
She moved out the first week of May.
Okay. All right. So now, when you guys make an agreement that she's like, tell me about the discussion regarding her moving out, because you're still both on a lease until September.
Yeah. So we had made a verbal agreement in exchange for April and May. I would get the security deposit, and
because according to you, she was living there in April and May and didn't pay rent.
Yes, correct. I paid April and May. I have the bank statement. Entirely myself.
And she didn't pay you at all for those months?
No.
How would you normally pay the rent?
Cash.
And who would be the one who would pay it?
It was kind of both of us because it depended on our work schedules.
So if we look back at all the months of payments, would they all be coming out of your account, or would they all be coming out of hers, or mixed?
Up until, I want to say, the end of March, where I was paying April's rent, we were splitting it. So it would show half coming from me.
What happened in April and May that she didn't pay the rent? What did she say to you?
She said that in exchange for the security deposit, not to pay April and May's rent.
Did you pay April and May's rent?
So I moved out at the end of April. I was never residing there in May. Never once.
Did you pay April rent?
Yes, I did.
Do you have proof of it?
No, because my bank statements only go
Just a second.
My bank statements only allow me to go back 3 months.
Oh, no, you can go to the bank and get proof because
I was not aware that I'm new to Bank of America, probably just within the last year, and I don't normally mess with things that I'm not too informed on.
Yeah, but, okay, hold on one second. You're coming to court and you're saying I'm entitled to the security deposit. He's saying you didn't pay April and May. So if you paid it, I would expect you to come here with proof that you paid it. How did you pay it?
I would pull out cash. He would pull out cash. We would go hand cash to the guy. And sometimes
Do you have any proof that you paid April?
No. Well,
When did she move out according to you?
The first week of May. She had gotten the keys the end of April 30th.
What kind of
and
notice
she
did
finished
you
moving
get
her
that
stuff out.
that you were going to be?
I came home and all her stuff that was in boxes that she boxed up the first 3 weeks of January was gone.
So she didn't tell you, hey, I'm out for sure now?
No, she just moved out. Just took everything and left.
All right, is that accurate?
No.
When did you tell him I found a place?
I told him the minute I paid a security deposit.
Which
on
was
my new
when? What
apartment.
day of April? Do you remember more or less?
Probably.
Like, in other words, you gave the security
It was
a week before moving in, 2 days before moving in?
I paid my security deposit probably at the beginning to the middle of April.
Okay.
Which secured my place at the end of April to get my keys to move
And
in.
is that when you told him I'm moving out?
Yes.
Okay, now, so you don't pay April, and you don't give him 30 days notice for May. You give him 2 weeks notice by your own admission right now. Why wouldn't he be entitled to keep that security deposit? You say, well, Judge, I did pay April, but you're unable to prove it to me. He has a bank statement where he paid it, but I realize that's not necessary. You might have given him the cash. I get that. But he has an actual bank statement, so it wasn't, the bank statement is you taking money out, or is it the payment to them through some
My
mechanism?
bank statement shows me withdrawing $1,700 for rent for April and May.
Yes.
And I have the receipts from the landlord that say that I paid the rent.
Now, I understand that that might mean that you gave him half of that cash, but then why is he pulling out the entire 17, and why can't you prove that you gave him that?
Because sometimes when I would give him my half, or sometimes when he would give me half, depending on what day of the week that we would give each other the cash, it would sometimes be deposited into our bank account and then later withdrawn, just so $1,700 wasn't laying around the apartment.
Yeah, I get that, but
So
then
at the time
here's
that
where
I
we
gave him
are.
the
I have a
cash-
bunch of texts between you guys, and I have her demanding the security because what you did is when the lease was over, which was when?
It ended July 31st.
All right, so you signed a new lease with the same building?
Correct.
Just you?
Yes. I had gone month to month from August and this September, and my new lease starts October 1st.
Okay. And they allowed you, even though she's off the lease, to roll over the security.
Correct.
Which is weird because usually the landlord doesn't mess with that. They return the security and they make you, because it's a new lease with just you on it, not her, they make you put another security. So I'm surprised that your building did that. Mm-hmm. According to her, she paid the entire security deposit. Is that true or not true?
From what I remember, I paid half.
Do you have any proof of that?
Not with me.
Okay.
But I do
and
have-
either way, if you paid half, you're still keeping it for 2 months worth of no rent.
Correct.
Which is the April, and according to you, she moved out in the first week of May.
Yeah.
Whether she was there or not, she admits that she gave you no notice, so you wouldn't have time to get another roommate. You didn't get another roommate,
No, I
right?
didn't.
Did you stay in that apartment?
I'm still there.
You're still there now, so okay. Now, you have a counterclaim against her. Since she's decided to sue you for the security deposit, you have a counterclaim against her for $5,100 for her half of the rent for April, May, June, July, August, and September.
Correct.
But you said that the lease ended in July 31st.
I realized after when I got a copy of the original lease, I checked the date because I got an email from the landlord, whoever handles the landlord's tenants, and she had said originally that the lease ended September 30th.
But it didn't.
But it didn't. When I read the original contract, it was July 31st.
Now, what is your defense to you're on a lease and you were supposed to pay until July 31st?
Hi, I'm Angie Hicks, co-founder of Angie. And one thing I've learned is that you buy a house, but you make it a home. Because with every fix, update, and renovation, it becomes a little more your own. So you need all your jobs done well. For nearly 30 years, Angie has helped millions of homeowners hire skilled pros for the projects that matter. From plumbing to electrical, roof repair to deck upgrades. So leave it to the pros who will get your jobs done well. Hire high-quality certified pros at Angie.com.
I told him probably about 2 days after we broke up January 1st that I was definitively moving out, and I had actively been looking for a place up until...
in fairness, you were looking for a place for 4 months, so nobody knows when the shoe's going to land, the other shoe is going to fall.
Well, I had given him notice.
No, that's not notice. You gave him notice a week before you left or 2 weeks before you left at most.
I was trying to say I had given him notice about a month prior to me paying the security deposit that it was about a 90% chance I was going to get into the
No, that's not what notice is. Notice is I'm out this day, which you weren't weren't doing. You were continuing to live there and continuing to pay the rent until April. Then in April, you actually bothered to find a place, and then you put the security deposit down. And in the light most favorable to you, because I've already asked you these questions, you said to me, I told him as soon as I put the security deposit, when was that? A few weeks before I moved in. So at best, in the middle of April, you tell him, if you are living there, you're not even, first of all, you have an obligation to continue to pay rent until the end of the lease. So if you guys strike a deal, great, but you have an obligation to pay until the end of the lease. You leave, I told him, and you leave, and you have to understand that you're still on the lease. And that you don't have the right to say, Pisha, I'm leaving. Do you get that? That there's two contracts. One is the contract the building has with the two of you. The other one is the verbal one the two of you have together.
Yes.
That you're going to each pay half of the payments, and you're going to stick it out until the end of the lease. You understand that, right?
Yes.
Okay. So now because you're suing him for the security deposit, he's suing you. He's counterclaiming against you for all those months. What say you to that?
I told him in January I was definitively moving out up until I brought...
Except for that you didn't give him a date because you hadn't found a place. So I'm definitely moving out at some point is not notice. Now, all he's asking for is that you not get the security deposit because you didn't pay April and you didn't pay May. We know you didn't pay May. You're saying, well, I didn't pay May because I wasn't there in May. Well, you don't have to. If you were on a month-to-month, which you're not, you're on a lease, but if you were on a month-to-month, you would at least have to give the guy 30 days notice, and you would have to pay for a month that you lived there. You're completely unable to prove to me that you paid April, and we know you only gave him 2 weeks' notice. Why would I make him return? Can I ask you something? Now, I'm looking at text between the two of you, and I can tell that you guys were not getting along for quite some time. And there's the issue of the dogs. What was going on with the dogs? How many dogs are there?
2.
Okay.
We had got one together. We drove down to Richmond, Virginia to pick him up in July of 2021. We basically took care of him all together. I bought kennels for him.
Whose dog was it? Nobody thinks through that, right?
No.
Nobody thinks through that.
We had talked about this before, and it is her dog.
Okay.
Both dogs are her dogs. Don't get me wrong. I love them, and I do miss them, but they are her dogs.
At one point, she's texting you for the security deposit, and you tell her, if you just let me see the dogs one more time, I'll pay you the security deposit. So my question to you is, what happened with that?
She said, I don't care.
And she wouldn't let you see the dogs?
Nope. Okay. I even asked for a picture. Just send me a picture, and she said, I don't care. You're not getting one. And then I got mad, and I mouthed off and said some things I shouldn't have said.
What'd you say?
I know I said she didn't deserve to see her kids and...
Her kids?
Some other things.
Does she not see her kids?
Yes, correct.
I'm fascinated by the decision to move from one state to another for a fellow and move in with his family, and then move in with him. Where are your kids?
They're with their father.
How old are you? How many?
I have 2.
Same father?
Yes.
The 2 children are with the father, and they're how old?
My daughter is going to be 8, and my son is 4.
And they live in Michigan?
Yes.
So you left Michigan and to follow some guy that you met building a gingerbread house or whatever?
No, I'm a CNA, so I'm in healthcare, and I was looking into traveling positions, and it was only supposed to be a 3-month contract in Massachusetts.
Do you see your children?
No.
Is there a court order that prevents you from seeing them?
There's supposedly one. I hired a lawyer a couple weeks back to look into it because honestly, because...
How was the last time you saw your children?
About, 2019.
When you say there's supposedly one, why, if you don't think there's a court order stopping you from seeing them, why haven't you seen your children?
Why I hired a lawyer because...
Yeah, so there's a court order stopping you.
I don't know that definitively.
Well, then why haven't you seen your kids?
Because I had gotten a call from an email from my daughter's school about her starting young 5s, and I thought it was a mistake because I had gotten her accepted into kindergarten. And so when I called the school to ask if there was a mix-up, the school told me that there was an order filed against me by the father's lawyer preventing me from having any contact or information about the kids. When I had called the dad about it because he hired a lawyer.
Why does he have them to begin with, I guess, was my question.
His dad is in politics, and he knew the court and the family lawyer, and the lawyer was a family friend, so...
Wait, but that means that there had been a previous court order that you were a part of. Like, I assume at some point you guys were together and you had kids with him, and then what happens? Like, how do they get taken away from you?
The relationship was abusive the whole time, and eventually I said, I'm divorcing you, I'm moving out. We were going to be civil with the kids, no court. Once I had physically moved out of the house to get on my own so we could start that next chapter of the shared relationship, he went to court, and at the time my license was still tied to his address, so I assume whatever court order was mailed to me went to his address and I didn't know about it. So I'm assuming if the court order was real based off of what the school told me, that the order for me to show
Okay,
court,
but all that is years later. I guess what I'm wondering is, where are your kids and why aren't you with them? I guess that's really what I'm
I haven't
asking.
had enough money to get a lawyer to go back to court.
In
because
3 years? How'd you get enough money to move to Massachusetts?
I barely had the money to do that. Part of pursuing the Massachusetts contract.
Because, you know, you don't need a lawyer to pursue your children and say, hey, the father's not allowing me to see. Like, in other words, if my husband said, you're not going to see your kids, I'd be calling the police. And then going to court myself pro se to get my kids back. So I'm wondering what...
I tried that a couple of times by myself prior to me moving. And like I said, the judge knew the family, the lawyer knew the family. I figured an out-of-state lawyer would be best because then it was somebody not affiliated with the family, because there was a couple times I tried contacting lawyers, and the minute I mentioned...
I'm just trying to imagine what would keep me away from my children. A court order I've never seen, a man who says, tough for you, you don't get to see your... There's not a single thing that would keep me away. But let's get back to the case at hand, where you're suing for the $1,700 security deposit. Unless you're able to show me, and I think you've already explained that you can't show payment for April, correct?
Right, I don't have that.
And unless you're able to show me that you gave him some kind of notice that would qualify as... you know, a 30-day notice, which I'm giving you like a break when I say that, because truly you're supposed to be there until the end. But if he lets you out, he lets you out. Too bad, so sad. And according to you, she was there part of May?
Just like the first week. Honestly, I count it, but I don't really count it because it wasn't like the full month. It wasn't more than a week. But also, I have an email from the company that had no idea she moved out until I mentioned it in August, asking for a new lease with her off of it.
Because nobody had asked for a new lease before then? How come?
Well, she had told me through text, and I think I sent one of the text messages saying I had moved out April 1st. I told the landlord.
Let's look at these texts. Do you even realize how easy I've tried to make things? I even have your new ex, Tyler, in my DMs. He wants to be my friend now. What's that about? That's weird.
So there was a guy who messaged me out of the blue on Instagram saying, why does it matter who Lily's sleeping with? I'm the one sleeping with her now. Just leave her. Like, I'm paraphrasing, but leave her alone. And then I get a message from the same guy 2 weeks later saying, how can we screw this over?
I'm going to be working on myself. Yeah, right. Working your way around new blank. Male anatomy. Unlike you, I've been alone and by myself since January. I can't even sleep on the right side of my bed because I keep picturing someone else's face lying next to you. You have no idea what you and the dogs mean to me. Were you guys trying to get back at this point, or this is way...
This was just a couple weeks ago.
Okay. I even left my job and took a pay cut because you didn't like the people I was working with. I begged you to stay. You decided to film me and blast me on the internet. What's that about?
So one of the times we were living together, she was going out to meet with the guy she was seeing at the time. She started seeing somebody 2 weeks after we broke up. And
in January, we're talking about.
In January, correct. And I literally was on my hands and knees begging her not to go. And what she did is film me and then put me on her TikTok, where she has over 6,000 followers to all look at me.
Okay.
I asked her to take it down.
You're a very discreet individual.
Me?
Yeah. Because I'm looking at the picture you sent her where you're naked and the dog is on top of
I put that on Instagram.
This was on
But also I have a blanket over my waist, so...
You have a dog over your waist.
Well, that too.
Why are you sending her this picture?
I wasn't sending her that picture. I put it on my Instagram.
Oh, you literally posted that for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. All righty then. So here's where we are. You are unable to prove to me that you paid April. You admit that you didn't pay May. We all know that you didn't pay June, July, because that's the end of the lease. And you are demanding that the security deposit come back. What you want to do, if you're ever in a position where you're paying the entire security deposit, is have a separate agreement with the person saying it's my entire security deposit, or they have to pay you the other half at some point. But you have to have some written, recorded evidence of it. But let's just say that you did, because it doesn't matter in this case. In this case, he's saying, but I'm still entitled to keep it because, I should be able to get at least 2 months when, because she bails on me and she doesn't tell me till the middle of April that for sure she's leaving.
Well, he just refused it. He wouldn't take me off of the lease at all.
No, he doesn't. You don't have a right to make him take you. You still don't get it. I honestly think you still don't get it.
No, I understand. I'm just
No, I don't think you do. It's
became,
his fault because he refused to take me off the lease. You don't get it. We're done. As far as your lawsuit against him for $1,700, I am not going to make him return that money. I don't really believe that there was some agreement beforehand. But in my Essex, so I don't want you to think you snowed me on that. Because you didn't. So, but what I think happened is that she relinquished her right to it because she didn't pay April and May. Now, on your lawsuit for half of the rent, I'm not going to make her pay that because at some point you do agree for her to leave. And so if I make her pay her half for April and I make her pay her half for May, I think that you're sufficiently compensated. So on your lawsuit against her, 0. And on her lawsuit against you, also 0. Good luck, folks.
All right, both sides, hold on, please.
So in this complex dispute between two former roommates who really were in love with each other at one point, the plaintiff has failed to convince the judge that she deserves $1,700 back from the defendant. Let's see what she has to say. Ms. Schaefer, talk to me for a couple of minutes. Are you glad this is over? He begged you not to leave, but obviously you were finished, right?
Well, he begged me not to leave, but he also boasted about sleeping around with coworkers' cousins, and he was bringing women home prior to the relationship definitively ending. And I have, countless evidence of him cheating prior to the relationship even ending. So he wasn't really that happy, or he wasn't really that sad that the relationship ended. So. All
right, thank you very much. I hope things work out for you. All right, let's see what the defendant has to say. Mr. Bonanno, you were suing for $5,100. That amount of rent, you didn't get it. How do you feel about it?
To be honest, I'm not too upset about it just because I didn't want to be here in the first place. I was hoping that we could be mutual about it, and then I get a letter in the mail from her, out of the blue, or from the court telling me that she's trying to sue me. So, it is what it is.
Well, thank you very much. Sorry you lost the lawsuit, but that's the way it is in court. Good luck to you.
So, uncomfortable does not justify bailing on a lease. I will explain, Doug. Here's the thing, that if two people break up and it's really uncomfortable for both of them to stay in the same apartment, that's just simply tough. If you have a lease and you have to tough it out, you have to tough it out. Now, if there's some kind of danger, that's another thing. But if it's just being uncomfortable, that is not a defense to breaking a lease.
I was in a bike lane and a parked car door hit me. I was driving my scooter in the appropriate lane and he opened his door right into me. I fell off, got hurt, and damaged my scooter. What can I do?
This happens a lot.
Yeah.
The people who open the car doors along the side of the road, and sometimes it's a vehicle that hits them, and sometimes it's a bicycle, and sometimes it's a motorcyclist. It is kind of weird how they would have a parking space and then a bike lane. It seems unsafe, but
I guess if it's a one-way street and he's on the I was trying to figure that out too. But so it's the driver, and the driver opens the door, and there's a bike lane next to it. That's that could. Let's assume it's a one-way street, and that's how that happens.
Right, and certainly the person
because
who's in the car,
he claims to be in the bike lane when it happened.
Right, and the person who's in the car owes a duty of reasonable care here to at least take a look and be careful, because everybody knows those bike lanes. People are ripping up and down them all the time.
I got to tell you, I think we're all guilty of just opening the door.
Right.
All of us. And no, you're not supposed to. You're supposed to look back and make sure you can open the door, whether it's into traffic or anything else.
Absolutely. You could really hurt somebody or kill them.
Right.
This is the plaintiff, Larry Campbell. He says the defendant was a friend of his, but then he broke the handle on the door of his car and refuses to pay, so they are friends no more. Just because the guy claims he's broke is no excuse not to pay him for the damages he caused. And he's here suing him for the $474.49 he's owed. This is the defendant, Lonnie Eppard. He says he tried to open the door in the plaintiff's car and the handle broke. He doesn't have superhuman strength or anything. All he did was open the door, like any normal person would do, and he's sorry. But he didn't do anything wrong and doesn't owe his former friend a thing. He's accused of busting it, but good.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket. The plaintiff and the defendant were really good friends until the defendant broke the door handle on the plaintiff's car. But the defendant won't pay up for the damage he caused. And here they are in court. It's the case of get a handle on it.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
All right, Mr. Campbell, what happened?
What happened was on Christmas Day, I invited Lonnie Eppard to join me at my brother's house because he had no place to go on Christmas. And we were pulling up, I was driving, and we were pulling up the car at my brother's house. And because I hadn't turned off the car yet, the child locks were still on. And when I turned off the car, Lonnie showed me a broken handle. Apparently, he had tried to open the door prior to when the locks became unlocked.
What kind of car is this?
This is a 2003 Elantra.
Okay, if I try to open a door and it's locked, what happens is it just doesn't open. How does the door handle come out of my hand?
Well, he snapped it. He pulled it so hard that he broke the handle.
How exactly were you alerted to the fact that something had gone wrong?
Well, when I turned off the car and I was about to get out, Lonnie said, "Oh, here, I broke the car door handle. I'll pay for it."
Okay. So it's not like you heard a snap or anything. He just felt bad. He had a door handle in his hand. He gives it to you. He says, "I'm going to pay for it."
I didn't hear the snapping of the door handle.
All right. So what happens?
So what I did after that, I took it to an automotive, my mechanic, and they replaced the door handle, but also found that the locking mechanism was also damaged, and so they had to take out the window, put a new locking system in there. And so the bill came out to the $400+.
Okay, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? How do I know that him trying to open a door broke that system as opposed to that system being broken is the reason he couldn't open the door or the reason the doorknob came off?
Well, I get it checked every so often. I take my car in for servicing. It's never been a problem. I've had other people on that side, the passenger side, open the door. There was never any problem.
I know there's never a problem until there's a problem, and your car is old enough to vote. I'm sure it's in great shape and everything. It's a 19-year-old car. Let me hear from you, Mr. Eppard. What's your defense?
I got into Mr. Campbell's car to go to his brother's house. And once we got there, I tried to open the door. It didn't open. He told me to wait until he unlocked it. So he tried to unlock it 3 different times. And I guess the 3rd or 4th time when I pulled on the handle, it broke. So then he kept on saying, "You broke my car door. You broke my car door." And just kept on saying that. And then I finally, because we was at his brother's house, I didn't want no hassle or anything. So I told him, "Well, give me the make and model and the year of the car. I'll check on the part and I'll fix it myself." I even Googled to show how easy it was to fix. He did not say, okay, nothing.
And then what happened?
Then also I sent information about wear and tear on the car handle and also on the locking mechanism, saying that
talk to me about that.
When a car is really old or it's got a lot of miles on it.
When a car is really old or a lot of miles on it, what?
The wear and tear will break the handle. And also on the handle, it states that it takes 2,500 pounds of vertical force or 2,000 pounds of horizontal force to break the handle. I'm not Superman.
Let me ask you a question. According to you, he was trying to unlock it and it wouldn't unlock?
Yes, I'm assuming that one of the symptoms of a car door lock is that if it's going bad, it will sometimes work and sometimes it won't work.
Okay, were you hearing, there's a specific sound that trying to unlock a car makes, like there's a noise that it makes. Were you hearing that noise over and over?
Yes, well, I was hearing that noise, but I'm not sure if it was coming from my side of the car or his side of the car.
Okay, Mr. Campbell, were you trying to unlock the door and unable to unlock it?
No, that's not true. I turned off the ignition and then the locks automatically open. At that point is when Mr. Eppert showed me the lock.
Okay, I'm going to need some evidence from you that will explain to me how this is his fault. Because if all he's doing is trying to open a door, that is the normal and customary usage of a door handle, is to try to open the door. So if what he's doing is trying to open the door, you shouldn't have $500 of damage based on that, unless there's something else that's already wrong, like the locking mechanism is failing, and that's the reason why things go wrong. What did he do besides pull the handle?
The handle snapped off. And
right, I understand it snapped off. So it either snapped off because it's 19 years old, and you have a broken lock mechanism, or it snapped off because he was bouncing on it like a gorilla. So I need to hear what he did other than the normal thing a human does in the passenger seat when the car stops, which is try to get out. Trying to get out, if it turns out it breaks your handle just by normal usage, then the odds are it's not his fault. And I realize he said he'd pay for it, and now he's changed his mind. But, you know, it is what it is. So I have to decide, well, is he responsible legally for paying for it? Because promising to pay for something is not a contract that you can enforce. Those are just words. I have to now go back to square one and see, did he break it? How did he break it? Well, if all he does is try to open the door and you have to repeatedly try to unlock it, then there's something wrong with the locking mechanism, obviously.
He tried to open it before it came unlocked when I turned off the ignition.
And normally if one does that, you don't get $500 in damages. You just can't get out of the car, right? If there's nothing wrong with your car before that, then he just can't get out. Oh, okay, unlock the door. Oh, you unlocked it now? Okay, and then he can get out. Because I've been getting in cars my whole life. So we both know how it's supposed to normally work. So if it didn't work then, that is even more evidence that there's nothing that he did unusual that would cause him to have to pay for this damages. I'm sorry that your car had a problem, but this is your problem and not his, and I'm ruling in favor of the defendant.
So the plaintiff does not get $474 from the defendant. He does not prevail in this lawsuit. Mr. Campbell, let me ask you something. What do you think about the judge's decision? How do you feel?
Well, obviously I disagree with it. Like I said, he forced the lock before the door was officially unlocked when I turned off my ignition.
I know, you know yourself, he didn't mean to do that. What about the friendship you had with him? How's that been affected by this?
Well, he's not taking my calls or anything like that, so, I'm always open to, communication, but...
Yeah, well, you've heard the judge. He's not responsible. That's the legal verdict here, so I'm sorry, but you're going to have to live with that. Maybe your friendship is over because of it. Who knows? Mr. Eppert, how do you feel now? You're off the hook. You okay with that?
Yes, I am. I just felt like that wear and tear, like if I would open the door and the hinges was rusted and the door fell off, I don't think that would be my fault.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think that'd be your fault either. All right, the friendship is over then. How do you feel about that?
Yes, it's over because I did send him an email explaining about how much pressure it takes to break the door handle. Also, that I would never do this to a friend, have somebody ask somebody to pay for something that was worn out. And I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. Forget it.
Well, that sounds he went overboard. No question about that.
Doug, I love this case, and I actually love the decision especially, and I'll tell you why. When you sue somebody for damaging or ruining your property, you have to prove they did something wrong. And that is usually one of two things. It's almost always one of two things. It's either negligence or it's intentional. And if it's negligent, meaning that somebody didn't use reasonable care in doing what they were doing in handling your property and broke it, you can get your money for the item, and the same if it's intentional. But if it isn't negligent and if it isn't intentional, it's simply tough luck.
Why do people swear to tell the truth while taking an oath and then lie during testimony? Isn't this perjury, or are the rules relaxed because it's small claims?
The rules are not relaxed.
Not relaxed. An oath is an oath is an oath.
Yeah, when you raise your right hand and swear to tell the truth, you do so under penalty of perjury. If somebody could prove that you perjured yourself knowingly, intentionally, willfully before a court, yeah, you could be subject to prosecution.
You civilly, and you could be prosecuted criminally.
You could get indicted
for
for perjury.
Yeah, there's no relaxed rules. The thing is, you know, people like you're saying that person lied because I don't agree with them.
Right.
So you have to be able to prove that they lied and that it was intentional.
Right. Well, and perjury is not an easy crime to
not.
prove for a prosecutor. I was a prosecutor for 17 years as an assistant U.S. attorney. How many times do you think I charged somebody with perjury?
Even though in probably every single one of your trials somebody lied,
right.
Defendant lied.
Zero. I've never brought a perjury prosecution. Obstruction of justice once, but for something similar. But it's a tough crime to prove in a courtroom. And yes, some people have kind of a liberal attitude about what the truth is when they come in. And that's where you come in.
Right.
It's your job to separate the wheat from the chaff and figure out who's telling the truth, right?